Hello and welcome to another mod spotlight. I'm Exterminator and thank you for joining me. This spotlight is going to be on the Modular Armor Revamp mod. It's been around for quite a while and I'm honestly surprised no one has done a spotlight on it yet because it's pretty cool. So first of all, I want to point out this spotlight is done on the latest version of Factorio 0.12.20, which is the stable version currently. So there's that, and it's also the latest version of the mod, which is 0.0.19. So it will work on the latest version of Factorio. Make sure you do grab that latest version of the mod, though, because the ones before that, I think, might not work. Okay, so what does this do? Well, it does what its name says. It redoes and changes how the modular armor works. Well, not how it works. It changes values for things, and it adds multiple new tiers of things and some different items for them. Okay, so I guess we'll hop into the research really quick here. You have your normal power armor, right? Armor crafting 3, which will get you your basic modular armor, and it unlocks all these other things, which I'll go over in a minute. So you have your power armor, that's normal, power armor 2, and normally in the vanilla, that's where it would stop. The mod adds a Mark 3 and a Mark 4 of the armor. So here's the Mark 3, 500, except for this one, which is 2,000. And then this one is quite expensive, 1,000 cycles times 5, 5, 3, and 2. So very expensive. So there's that. And then it unlocks, again, the equipment is changed around a bit as well. So you have your normal energy shield, which I will go over all the stats for these in a minute. And then you have your energy shield Mark II and a Mark III. You have basic actuator equipment, which is an exoskeleton, but it's changed a bit. And then you have a level 2 one. So there's that. And then you have different battery normal one, Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV. You have a power conduit equipment. You have a burner generator equipment. And you have a portable solar panel. And then you also have advanced portable solar panels. And then you also have portable fusion reactor, which I will go over here. And then personal laser defense, so on and so forth. These are changed, these two, the items. Research is still there. Okay, so let's hop in here. First of all, something very important to note is based on the information in the forum post for the mod, the power production and consumption of all these modules that go in here is increased by 50. So 50 times what it normally is. And the dev said it was just to kind of balance out the energy consumption of everything. I don't completely understand, but that's how it is. So we have our normal armors. We have our power armor, power Mark II. One thing to note is these take the armor beforehand to make it, right? So I think that was changed. It takes 2 basic modular armors to make this, and then this one it takes 1 power armor. This one it takes 2 power armor Mark IIs to make a Mark III. This it takes 2 power armor Mark IIIs to make a Mark IV. So really expensive. And you'll also notice they take the Superconducting Coil, which I'll touch on in a second. So the Mark III has a 12 by 12 grid rather than a 10 by 10, and the resistances are increased as well as the durability, which goes from 20 to 30,000, and this goes from 30 to 40,000 here on the Mark IV, and it has a 15 by 15 grid and even higher resistances. Okay, so really strong. You can see down there in the total raw, though, extremely expensive to make, all in all. Very, very expensive. 400 electric engines, I mean, you can just see right there. So, not cheap. Okay, the mod adds 2 things, which I'll go over first before I go over the equipment, so it makes sense. You have your Superconducting Coil, okay? You make these from alien artifacts and copper cable, and you get 10 of them per cycle. So you get 10 of them from 1 alien artifact and 10 copper cable. It takes 20 seconds, so quite a long time. Okay, and then you also have this alien fuel, and you get 3 of it per cycle. And it takes 1 alien artifact and 3 solid fuel to make, and also 20 seconds. Okay, this is going to be important for one of the modules that goes in the armor. Okay, so it adds those 2 new things. And then here, I thought I toggled day on. Here we go. so we went over the armor. Okay, let's start with what we do know. Okay, we have our shields. Now, the Energy Shield Mark 1 is changed, okay? The mod changes it. It's a 1x1, and it consumes 75 kilowatts, which is greatly increased. If you remember, in vanilla, I believe the fusion reactor only generates 75 kilowatts, right? So that's obviously going to be increased here. And it only provides 5 shield energy per unit. I mean, you can kind of look at the stats there. So very weak, but you can make it quite early, right? The cost up there, electronic circuit, 2 steel, and 10 copper cables, pretty cheap. Okay, and then you have your shield Mark II, which is a 2x2 dimension. It takes 1.2 megawatts. It provides a 50 shield, and there you go. So there's those stats. And notice how these do take the superconducting coil, these two, and they take, this one takes 10 of the previous level of these, and then this one takes 10 of these. So this one here is a 350 shield, 3x3 dimension, 4 megawatt energy consumption, which is really high energy per unit, 150 kilojoules, and maximum recharge speed 800. Okay, so we have those. And one other thing to note here about the basic modular armor, the mod changes it so it does not take processing units, so you can make it a lot earlier. You just make it from a heavy armor and 40 advanced circuits, so you can actually make it quite early, pretty much after oil setup gets going. Okay, so we have that. And then batteries. You have just a normal battery, 1x1, 10 megajoule energy capacity. Battery Mark II, 1x2, 25 megajoules. Mark III is a 2x2 and 60 megajoules, and a 2x4, and it's 150 megajoules for the Mark IV. Now, if we compare this to like an accumulator, this only stores 5 megajoules. So this, I mean, these are pretty strong. This one here is double what an accumulator can store, right? And this one here is a lot. It's, what, 30 times? Now, one thing to mention here, just in case you're confused, the mod does not change energy consumption of like other vanilla items, okay? It just does it for this, like the modules for the armor and stuff, okay? It's not changing steam engines or accumulators or solar panels or any of that. Okay, that's just one thing to point out. Okay, so we have those. We have our portable solar panel. Okay, just a level 1, and it's a 1x1, and it produces 375 kilowatts. You can see greatly increased from what it was in vanilla. And then advanced solar panel, which is a 5x1, which is kind of interesting, and it produced 725 kilowatts. All right, so quite a bit of power. If we look at this, like if we took this one, 375, it could power quite a few of these guys. What, like 4 of them, 5? I don't know the exact math, but so it is fairly balanced. I mean, only a 5 shield is not particularly strong, so I'm not quite sure about that. But if we go in here, and I'm just interested, this 5x1 is kind of interesting. So if we take a Power Armor Mark IV, just so you can see, really big grid, 5x1. So it kind of lays out this way, just to kind of give you a visual demonstration. Okay, so that's what we do know. And lastly is portable fusion reactor, okay? Now this is an item that's in vanilla. It's changed. It takes 20 Energy Shield Mark IIs, 100 processing units, 200 superconducting coils, and 200 steel. So it is not cheap. And it generates 5,000 kilowatts, so 5 megawatts worth of power, 4x4 dimension. And one thing to note there, you can see in the description, is it burns alien fuel, okay? This is important to note. Okay, it doesn't just generate power from nowhere, okay? It actually uses fuel, okay? And this one uses the alien fuel. So if you don't have that in your inventory, it won't work, all right? And this one here, that both use fuel, they pull it from your inventory, okay? That's something just to keep in mind, is it uses it from your inventory, right? So if you run out, then it's not going to work. And the developer of the mod says there's currently not really a way for you to tell like how much fuel you have left besides just like visually looking. You know, there's no like indicator like bar or anything. So just make sure you pay attention to that or have plenty of fuel in your inventory when you go out to fight or whatever, because this does burn it. Okay, so 5 megawatts, that's quite a lot, right? I mean, you know, that could power a little more than one of these. Okay, so we have that. And then we have our exoskeletons. This is a level 1, and it's a 1x2 dimension and consumes 125 kilowatts, and it's a 5% bonus move speed. So much lower than the basic one in vanilla, but it's cheaper, right? So it's changed. But this is kind of for, you know, earlier on. This guy here is a 2x4, and it consumes 1 megawatt, which is quite a lot, and it's a 30% movement speed, which I believe is same as vanilla. Okay, so the movement speed it provides is the same as vanilla Factorio, but the energy consumption is obviously higher to go with everything else. Roboport, personal Roboport, I don't believe it was changed. No, it was changed, right? I believe. So Roboport charge rate, 2 times 200 kilowatts. I don't know the vanilla stats. The forum post with the mod, I don't think mentioned it being changed, but I'd have to double check on that. And 2 times 200 kilowatts. I'm just trying to think here. So I don't think so, because the forum post did mention that increasing all these values in turn makes the personal Roboport much easier to charge, right? So, I mean, like, you know, a fusion reactor could power a ton of these things. Okay, night vision, 1 kilowatt, and there's that. Okay, now here's some things that are also changed. We have our personal laser defense, and the dev for the mod increased the damage from, forget what it was in vanilla, but he increased it to 20 laser. I think it was really low. It was like 10 or 5 or something. So increase it to 20 laser, and it's shooting shooting speed is 3 a second. Okay, it's a 2x3 dimension. And then also the discharge defense, the dev tried to make it more powerful to maybe make it viable, is the damage is 240 laser, up from, I forget exactly what it was in vanilla, but this is far higher. And it is a 10 area of effect. It's a 3x3 dimension. So there you go. But he said he did increase the cooldown, I think, a bit. So there's that. Okay, now we have our new items here. We have our burner generator equipment. Okay, this is essentially like a fusion reactor, but for earlier on. It generates 500 kilowatts from raw wood, coal, or solid fuel. Okay, so it burns the normal fuel products that are in vanilla, and it produces 500 kilowatts. All right, and again, it takes the fuel from your inventory. 2x2 dimension. So very small, pretty energy efficient. I don't know exactly at what rate it burns the fuel, but you know, so it's kind of like an earlier portable fusion reactor, which is really cool. And then this one, which is very interesting, is you have your power conduit equipment, and it transfers 400 kilowatts from your power network, okay? And it's a 1x1 dimension, so very energy efficient in your base, okay? A 1x1 dimension is pretty small, and it pulls 400 kilowatts from the power network. All right, so there's several things to note here. First of all, in the forum post, the developer said that at night, it will not pull energy from accumulators due to a limitation in Factorio. He didn't go into much more detail, but that is something to keep in mind. At night, it won't pull any energy from accumulators. Okay. And the other important thing, which is pretty obvious, is this won't work outside of your base unless you're, you know, next to a power network, right? So this is definitely not something you want to use when you go out fighting, because it won't do anything because it has no power network to pull power from. But while you're in your base, this is very, very useful, right? So I don't know about you guys, but like I usually prefer to have, you know, 2 or 3 sets of power armor for different uses. You know, one for in-base use, one for combat. Well, usually like 2 for combat, right? So if you kind of do that, you could have a set just for in-base and just use these, right? Because they take up a lot less room than the other things, and they're pretty efficient as long as you have the power being generated to support it. So there's that. Now, I mean, like, if you were running out and, you know, if you were going to an outpost or something to defend it, and you had, you know, the big power poles going all the way, you might be able to pull from that. I mean, we can give this a test here really quick. So we go into test mode, grab one of these, grab one of these. All right, and then we, exactly what it's called. Conduit. So that's essentially all the stuff. I know it was a lot to take in. You know, there's actual like written info on the forum post for the mod, which you can check out. There is a link in the description for that, as always. So if I throw this in here, take this out, and I throw something else in here to be able to actually use that, if I can find it. Looking for an exoskeleton. Well, that's a basic one. Oh, here we go. Okay, so let's throw this in here. This is a megawatt, so 125 kilowatts, okay? So I'm guessing that it's only when you're in the range of a power pole, potentially. Yeah, as you can see, okay, so when I leave this, you see the solar panels flashing this, and that, well, if you do know, you already know what that means. If you don't know, that means that there's nothing pulling power, right? It doesn't mean it's not able to generate it, it just means there's nothing pulling power, so it has nothing to do, right? Steam engines do that too if you have nothing hooked up. But you can see once I enter here, it stops. Okay, so I'm pulling power from here. Go click on this. You can see right here, it shows it, how much it's pulling. And it'll only pull what it needs, I believe, right? So it's only pulling what it needs when I run. You know, if I were to throw in, not a Mark III, I were to throw in like a Mark II or some Mark I shields, you know, so that is one thing to keep in mind. It will, it'll only do it when you're in the range of a power pole, right? So pretty cool. It pulls it from your power network, which is really nice in base. Of course, you know, if you don't have like complete power pole coverage, it may not be quite as good. But there's that. Okay, so so you can actually see when I mouse over this, you see that little blue thing down by my feet. If I do that here, it doesn't do it. So it kind of shows when I'm charging, which is really nice. And you know, you can visually see. I mean, these energy shields, they're like tiny compared to this. Obviously, you probably wouldn't be using a Mark I and a Mark IV armor, but just to kind of visually demonstrate, you know, you could fit, I mean, you could fit an insane amount of these power things in here if you wanted to use that in your base. Now, obviously, this thing isn't going to be able to fully power the exoskeleton, as you can see. But anyway, I think that covers it. Redoes all the vanilla items, adds some new items. You know, if you're really into the power armor thing and wish there were more options for it or higher levels, definitely check out this mod. Very cool. I played with it a bit, and it's pretty fun. Definitely allows you to go further in that area, and then all the researches as well. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope this wasn't too long, but it was quite a lot to cover, and I hope I covered everything. If I forgot something, which I hope I didn't, please let me know in the comments, or if you have further questions, let me know. You know, just anything. Let me know what you think of the mod. But again, check the description for a link to the forum post where you can check it out and download it. But as always, I look forward to seeing you all, and take care.